All right, we are live. We are on Facebook. We are the CRM Players. I'm Brent Leary, and you are.
Uh, Wait a minute. I am Paul something. I Greenberg. I'm
That's
Paul
it.
Greenberg.
Of the New York City Greenbergs.
That's right.
Of the- of
I
the-
work for the Yankees, clearly.
yeah, and of course, I
That's
was
right. And
at
you
the.
are head coach of the Rams, if I remember.
Yeah, and we are both kind of happy, although neither of our football teams won the Super Bowl. At least the team that we both kind of not, we don't like too much, they lost.
Yes, I did. And a well-deserved loss.
And I have to admit, I'm not the biggest Eagles fan, but I will say it today. Fly, Eagles.
I think I go that far. But that said,
Yeah.
I got to give it to the Eagles. They did play a good game.
Hey, that
And
was a
you
great
know what?
game.
You know what? Again, the team. So I think my way of looking at the Eagles was best expressed on the SNL the night before, where basically when they did this skit about the Patriots and
Oh, yeah, that was a great
Philadelphia,
skit.
right? Awesome. And it basically said, if you win, Eagles, don't burn the city down. Right,
And,
right. Fans, don't burn the city down. That's kind of what I think. I
yeah.
think it's like the fans, not the team.
Yeah.
There's nobody on the team really that's all that dislikable, right? It's
I
just,
can take a little credit because Nick Foles was our quarterback
look,
a couple of years ago. So,
yeah. I
yeah.
mean, it didn't quite work out. Well, then again, as somebody pointed out, that was the year of Jeff Fisher.
Oh, well,
Right. So,
we call it the Fisher Price era of, of Rams football.
like Rams being taught to play like infants.
Yeah. And it's amazing. Yeah, exactly. It's amazing what happens when he leaves your organization. You win right away. So
I know. Well, I got to tell you though, Sean McVay is such an interesting coach. I've become one of my two second teams now is the Rams because of you, right? And so I pay attention to the team and I watch the games, and I really like Sean McVay's style of coaching. He gets the most out of people. Plus, he's a really nice guy.
yeah, yeah.
Super nice guy.
And I will say, they just announced. Not only did they have the Super Bowl, they announced the Hall of Fame class, and they announced like all the awards for the end of the year.
Yeah.
And I get to say, at least we had the Coach of the Year with Sean McVay, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
We would have never got that with Jeff Fisher. We had the Offensive Player of the Year, Todd Gurley, and we had the Defensive Player of the Year, Aaron Donald. So we're on. I actually feel good about my team for the first time in a decade.
Great. I mean, of course, my team's the Giants, and this is literally the worst year in my entire life, actually. Well, I mean, on the one hand, if you look at the preseason stuff, and I read all the magazines in the preseason to see where people predict. Some of them predicted the Giants to win the division, right? And saying they'd plug some holes. But not only was the team horrible, they were dysfunctional. I mean, the people were like hating each other. And that was the best thing about this year for me as a Giants fan was they finally got rid of that asshole as a coach, right? Coach, it's like that. He was our Jeff Fisher, right?
Ben
Even
McAdoo.
when he was 11-5. McAdoo was unlikable. Right? He was completely unlikable. It's like I remember thinking, I am thrilled to death, but I have no idea how this guy's doing this. Right?
Well, the thing about him, the slick back hair and that mustache, he looked like something from like a bad 1980s porn movie. Really,
Right. Or maybe you ever see the villains in like a 1920s movie in the silent era?
Yeah, you could him doing the mustache thing. Well, so hopefully you will experience what I experienced this year when we ridded ourselves from our turbulent coach. And
Look, we'll have our receiving core back. Beckham will be back, and Shepard will be Shepard. One of these guys with massive potential, and the one thing that really did show up this year was what's his name, Evan Ingram, right? I mean, that guy is a terrific tight end, which he's really not. He's more of a terrific wide receiver. But that kid is Pretty remarkable. I mean, we have a really good receiving core, and Eli is always going to be Eli.
Hey, and
But
I'll say
that was amazing, though. I have to say, when McAdoo benched Eli, and management went with him, the Maras went with it, which really, you know what the commentary was going on? Now you got to realize, like Rams fans, Giants fans are really hardcore. I mean, like, and none of that, it's like 30, 40-year hardcore fans. No matter how bad the year was, doesn't matter. No matter what the Giants franchise did, it didn't matter. You are hardcore, and the one thing you always had in your back pocket and in your heart was that the owners were amazingly great human beings, and we had like a classy franchise. And in the space of like one announcement, they wiped out in no time. And but the Maras figured that out too. Well, they knew the fans just turned on them so fast, because the one thing they didn't remember is Eli's more beloved than they are.
Right.
Everyone loves Eli Manning. There isn't a soul in this universe that doesn't love that guy. He's a great guy. He loves being in New York. He 2 Super Bowls, man. You know, I mean, 2 unexpected Super Bowls besides, and you do not turn on that man. You know what? If he has to have a couple of horrible years on his way out, then so be it. We still let him have them if that's what it is, because it's Eli Manning and he deserves to go out exactly the way he wants.
And it's funny you said that you had Macadont, as I like to call him. He did it, and then Jerry Reese went with that. He was approved it, and now they both went.
Yeah. And Reese was there, 23 years, right? Yep. And was a good GM. I mean, it wasn't a great one, but it was a good one. And, and nobody had anything against him until he did that.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden, enemy of the state, man. You're an enemy of the state, and you are not welcome in the city of New York any longer.
And I'll say this, at least your year ended on a good note, because I would say one of the top 2 commercials of the Super Bowl.
Oh, that was awesome.
Eli and ODB. I mean,
And the lift. He did the lift. That was amazing.
So that's a
would be so proud.
Yeah, so that's a good way to go out and get ready for the new year. So
yeah, well, no, I'm excited. We're going to get a quarterback pick, I'm sure. We got one of the top 3 quarterbacks. We'll get Darnold and some of the Darnold obviously wants to be the Giant, though. He has been like publicly, constantly talking about how it would be so great to be tutored by Eli Manning, blah 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 blah.
Well, it's either that or the Browns. So I mean,
I'm in. You know what though? I'm into any one of those 3. I'm in. I'll take any one of them. I don't care. They're all potential rock stars.
They just need a good quarterback coach, offense coordinator. And I guess Shermer, that's his side of the ball, right?
Yeah. He apparently everyone in Carolina seems to love this guy. I mean, in Carolina, right? Yeah, he was offensive coordinator.
No, he was with the Vikings, wasn't he?
Vikings. That's what I'm. Yeah, right. It was Vikings, not Carolina. You're right. And all the reports I read, everyone says, my God, you don't know, you're getting some amazing person, right? And apparently he's a good guy. Another one. To me, that always matters, the character.
Well, I will say if he's like his Uncle Fritz, who was our defensive coordinator in the 80s when we had a pretty good run.
Yes, he did.
Of course, Eric Dickerson was there. Hopefully he's kind of like his uncle. So that's all I can say.
You said, because Eric Dickerson and I living with me, if I wanted to follow up with amen. It's like a prayer thing.
But anyway, okay, so we got to get into it. So one thing,
sports.
Yeah, we're going to do CRM Playaz Sports Edition. Period. It was just we all sports.
Folks. A separate edition just devoted to sports will be coming.
Yeah. So, but in the meantime, all right. So you got to help me talk about this because this was last month. Yeah, it was already last month.
Yeah.
Early part of January, Salesforce had their annual analyst summit. You weren't able to make it because you were expecting to be on a cruise and things didn't quite work out like that.
Right.
So I attended. There's about 35, 40 of us there. And it's the usual gang. I mean, it's a bunch of, most of us there are either you're with the big analyst groups like Forrester or Gartner, IDC, you're with, or Constellation. I'll put them in there too now. or you're more independent analyst types like you and me and our buddies like Esteban and Dennis Pomerant, a host of other people like that. But we're all more focused on the actual product and organization and technology trends. We're not focused on the financial analysis aspects of things. So, and the event is hosted by the Market Strategy Group, headed by our buddy John. And so this is not about financial insights or, any kind of numbers or any of that kind of stuff. So, but there was, they had a slide that showed kind of, I would say more goals, not projections or anything backed up by hard numbers, just goals that they have looking out 5, 10, 15 years. I think 2034 is what they looked out to. Yeah, I know it's kind of interesting numbers because that's like 17.
Yeah, 16 years. Well, yeah, 16 years.
Yeah, it's kind of a different kind of thing. But there was some numbers on this slide that they had projected. They called it the Book of Salesforce, and they kind of listed the stage that the company is in chapters. So, like the first chapter, a lot of
numbers.
Yeah. So the first, like chapter 1, I think it was kind of like the 0 to $1 billion chapter or something like that. Then maybe I think chapter 2 was 1 to 10 billion. So and we all kind of know how they got there because we kind of watched it at that point. Right. So then they had chapters like 3, 4, 5, or whatever, and those chapters are the ones that haven't totally been written yet, but they had some goals that they put out there for each of those chapters. I'm not even going to say the numbers because I just don't feel like getting involved in that anymore. But I guess those numbers were the numbers that nobody had really seen outside the company or something like that. And when you're in that environment, unless you see something stamped on the slide that says confidential or NDA or whatever, all of us in there are typically going to tweet about it or how we're taking pictures.
Normal behavior.
Yeah. So as that slide came up, me, and not just me, a host of people, I guess, were wow, that's a pretty interesting slide. So you did what comes natural, and you kind of tweet it out. So nothing secretive, nothing underhanded. Yeah. There's nothing like they're giving us financial rationale or projections or anything like that. It's just like a goal that I thought was out there. So within 5 minutes time, though, it was funny. You and I both get these Seeking Alpha notifications.
Yeah.
And so I got this Seeking Alpha notification, and it was like Salesforce new revenue goal for. I was like, wow, how did they get that so quick? Yeah, I didn't see any financial analysts in here. And so I clicked on it, opened up the little write up, and it says, just saw online, a new goal for that Salesforce has. Click here to see it. I'm like, click here. All right. So I clicked on it, and my tweet actually comes up.
So, impacted the market in no time.
Yeah, and then not too long after that, like minutes after that, TechCrunch has a post up, and it's focused around my tweet, and I'm like, wow, this thing is. It's kind of going crazy here. And I think it kind of spooked some folks, and they asked me to take the tweet down. I was like, sure, no problem. But there are other people apparently that had already tweeted it out. But, and at the end of the day, it was, it didn't seem to cause that much,
right.
At least I didn't think so. But the next morning, I get an email from, somebody at Business Insider, and they were asking me about, why did you delete the tweet? Because apparently this tweeted. I told you I got emails from some financial analyst firms, and I was like, I don't know why you guys are contacting me, but
career.
yeah. But this Business Insider, they were asking why the tweet came down. I said, look, there may have been a little confusion. So what? It seems to be okay now. So the next, after I got off the phone, it couldn't have been that much longer than this Business Insider article came up, and the way they characterized it was that a secret tweet reveals Salesforce new revenue goal or something like that. Completely mischaracterized.
Yeah. Secret slide, right?
Yeah, secret slide. And so, I thought that had all died down because there was nothing secret. Like I said, this was not a financial investor relations kind of thing. This is just a bunch of industry analysts learning more about what Salesforce has in store for the year.
And what it was an aspirational slide.
It was. That was it. It was a goal. It was an aspiration.
That's all.
There was no hard numbers behind it. It was just, here, and this is like 17 years out. I mean, it's
exactly. I was just going to say that.
So, all right. So that was the first week in January. So I thought, oh, okay, we're kind of past all this until last Friday. I got an email from, Business Insider again, and they wanted to know if I wanted to, they're reaching out to a group of analysts, and they wanted to get their take on how Salesforce is going to meet this number, out in the future. And they said, and the key phrase is the number that your secret slide revealed. And I was like, I wrote her back. I said, no, I'm not going to be a part of this. First of all, the way it was characterized and framed, it make it sound like there was some kind of nefarious activity going on, and like I was some kind of covert ops, like I'm 000 or something.
00 Rams.
Yeah, 0029 for Eric Dickerson.
Eric Dickerson, amen.
And so I just wrote it back and said, look, no, thanks, but no, I just do not agree with the way you're characterizing this. And I just explained the whole thing, and it's kind of, sad that you can't just make maybe there was some kind of a confusion at one point, but that was it. There was nothing, nothing going on there. And this is things that all these vendors do. We all go to these analyst events, and there's a distinction between the financial analysts and the kind of folks that we are. And, we're not there. They have financial analyst events, and they're able to go over all that stuff, and that's fine. And then they have things for us, and our focus is completely different. And just because this slide comes up, and once again, 17-year projection. I mean, I don't know. Maybe that's normal on the financial analyst side. I don't know. I don't see that stuff. But to me, it seemed like they were trying to make something out of nothing.
Well, they're pushing something way beyond the pale. Actually, first of all, honestly, there's no anybody who even bothers to answer Business Insider is just fantasizing anyway. I mean, there's no way to project 17 years out on how they're going to hit that number. Oh, well, they're going to actually invent a new device that will revolutionize the world, and thus, in 1 year, we'll go from, X to X plus X times 12, which will get them to the number. It's a joke. I mean, that's a joke. Okay, look, it's an aspirational slide, and it's one of the reasons Salesforce showed it was not for financial analysts, but for marketing purposes, right? It's basically saying we're ambitious, which they are. And you know what? Yeah. They hit their goals. They're very good at it. And they've made the point multiple times that they're the fastest company to the 10 billion mark in history, and which, it's something they can actually verify. And so but the number, which I'll leave out too, was strictly, it's a marketing slide. That's why they weren't that upset about it either, right? When you put it out, but the only reason they asked you to take it down, I think, was simply because it was creating a stir way beyond what they thought even had anything to do with anything. I mean, and number two is the fact that even after the first round with Business Insider, the Business Insider, one, tries to turn it into something sleazy, and two, make a continue pushing it, shows they don't have anything to talk about either. I mean, look, I read Business Insider every now and then, and I'm not a giant fan of it, and never have been. And I'm not, again, it's nothing to do with this particular thing, but I've never found an enormous amount of insight in it. As where I'll read TechCrunch because at least I'll get typically a good story out of it, and even they reported it, but they didn't make a big deal of it. They just reported it. Really, I read the article. It wasn't like, oh my God, nobody was editorializing. These guys are trying to make something big out of this when it's not there. First of all, again, any of our brethren or even financial analysts who are definitely a different breed, who attempt to comment with Business Insider are just inventing stuff in their head, because there's no possible way to project 16 years out. There's literally no possible way. We all, from all our friends and as analysts, even projecting a year out's dangerous sometimes, right? And we're probably wrong as often as we're right. I mean, you'll see, I put up a post this morning, actually, on SAP and Oracle, and, because kind of owed that. And, I'm cautiously optimistic. We can talk about that at another point. But one of the things I talk about how ridiculous forecasts are. I said, hell, I went through some examples. I said, well, the Segway was going to revolutionize transportation, if I remember. Hillary was going to win the election, and the Giants were going to win the division. That didn't happen, right? That's what I'm saying. These are not even a year projections. They're like 20 minutes before things actually happen, right? So projecting 16 years from now on how this is going to go when we got a world that's as uncertain as it is, and which makes it even worse, right? Anybody who even bothers to answer a stupid article inquiry like that is ridiculous. And I mean, even if they're my friends, please don't, right? So, the thing is that what they were doing, I think, look, it was a slide Salesforce put up there without an NDA. So from a technical and a let's call it just ordinary human behavior standpoint, you did exactly what I would do, what I think anyone in that room would do if they were fast enough to do it, which means probably the only one fast enough to do is Ray. He probably did it 10 minutes before you, before the slide was up. Clone number 7 knows how to predict things, right? So, the thing is that it's just ordinary behavior. And again, Salesforce didn't think that much about it. They said, hey, do me a favor, take it down, right? And it was no big deal from there, and they didn't make a big deal of it. The only ones who were making a big deal of it are Business Insider at this point, right? And the way you showed me the characterization, which is, to be perfectly honest, disgusting, right? It was what they characterized it was a secret slide. That's what they called it. And it's, you know what? I'm sorry. It wasn't a secret slide. It was a perfectly public slide that was made public. That's all. And as simple as that. And for these guys to, they may think they're after some. And look, I don't think they think they're after a scurrilous story or anything like that. I'm sure they think it's a legitimate story, and probably can make it into an interesting one. But nobody can possibly answer their questions with any legitimacy at all unless they're massive, sci-fi and fantasy fans and like to speculate that way.
Right.
But it's a joke. It's a joke. But their characterization was really disgusting.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, do you think Amazon really thought they would be at 18 billion in 10 years? Could they have really projected that? Probably not.
Of course not. You can't. I don't even know what I'm going to do for my next birthday. I have no idea. Right? I don't know what I'm doing tomorrow, actually. Well, I have to take my car, and I do know that. But that's pretty. But you know what? That could change.
Yeah.
So if I could change my appointment to go take my car in for an inspection, then how are you going to project a number that Salesforce is being aspirational about 16 years from now?
Yeah. Well, you know what? Patrick, how do you pronounce Patrick's last name? Is it Schneidow?
Yeah, Schneider.
So he made a projection that is actually a pretty good one. He just commented. He said that he can project that I will be a Rams fan 16 years ago. so, Patrick, you are correct.
That's that old saying, right? The only thing certain is God, taxes, and you're a Ram.
It's death, taxes, and Brent will be a Ram. All
right.
Right. Well,
that's literally it.
And you will be a Yankees fan, of course. That goes.
Yeah, of course.
All right. So thanks for talking me through that one. All right. Okay. So this one kind of caught everyone, I think, off guard because it was actually sent like on a Sunday night. It's like 11 o'clock Sunday night. There was an email that went out to the analyst relations folks from SAP announcing that they had just acquired Callidus Cloud, and that's a company that you are very familiar with. I'm familiar with. So what did you think when you saw that news?
I've been Callidus Cloud. I'm calling myself this. I'm not saying they're calling me this, but I've been one of their closest advisors. Literally, I had a retained advisory position with this company for, I think it's either 4 years or 3 years, but in a row. And I had no idea this was coming. None.
Wow. I know, because I remember I caught you on Facebook Messenger. And I said, "Hey, did you know about this?" And you were like, "What?"
What was right? And then Dennis Howlett, who of course is major influencer and runs Diginomica. He writes, "Wow, this one caught me by surprise too" on Facebook. Right? He was completely thrown off by it too. We all were. I mean, to their credit, they kept it that stealthy because usually we have so much gossip that we get that the odds of us hearing about it are pretty good, right? And yet, completely quiet. And I tried to push some people there to get information, couldn't get a word out of them, right? And, well, you know why? Because it's still an intent to acquire.
Right.
They haven't actually officially completed the acquisition, but I'll tell you what. Callidus Cloud to me, and it's one of the reasons I've very much enjoyed being their advisor, is a very different company than even what I expected it to be in the beginning. I mean, I remember years ago, I was pretty booked up, and I met with Giles House, who at the time was the CMO, is now the Chief Product Officer, kind of the number 2 guy in the company after Leslie Stretch, who's the CEO, who's awesome, by the way, in a very interesting way. And he sat with me, and I said, "So what do you guys do?" I mean, I thought they were like compensation, sales compensation. He said, "Well, we were, but we're expanding our portfolio." And he's explaining how they were buying up these marketing companies and these kind of sales performance enablement companies, and then they bought an e-learning system. And what it turned out to be, all in all, over the 3 or 4 years from when I met them, which had already had some of the acquisitions to current, they bought, I think it was 15 or 16 companies.
Yeah.
Right? And all of them were the in-betweens. Like they called, their messaging was built around the concept of the process lead to money, right? And lead being exactly what it sounds like, money being exactly what it sounds like, which was the way we used to call it, lead to cash was the old term, pretty much the same thing. But what's interesting is they had and they were CRM-ish, and all of that. And sales and marketing were kind of the area they covered, but they didn't have a single core CRM product. They were all the things that were value adds, acceleration, that fit in the cracks, right? And which, by the way, if you look at Gartner's numbers, is where the CRM market's potential for most growth is exactly where they were playing. Yeah. So they had very productive partnerships with SAP, and with Salesforce was a really interesting partnership.
Yeah, weren't they like a platinum sponsor?
Oh yeah, big time Salesforce partner. Again, they offered things Salesforce didn't. They weren't. I don't think they were Oracle partners, and I don't think they were really Microsoft partners. But they were talking it through, and part of our discussions in the advisory side. But the two companies that they were committed to were SAP and Salesforce, without any question. And the funny thing is, even though I was caught by surprise, and the price of the acquisition, or the apparent price of the acquisition to be, it was 2.4 billion is the number I've seen thrown around, which is a really big number.
Yeah.
That said, though, the thing that made this company interesting to me, and always really interesting, was they have an outlier model they've been working with, first of all, in terms of the actual offerings, meaning, for example, so they have their sales, originally they didn't exactly used to compete head-to-head on sales comp, and exactly kind of went this way, and they went this way, right? So they still compete there, certainly, and they also have CPQ, so they compete there. Not exactly, but they compete with other CPQ vendors there. But they have like a brilliant and truly brilliant onboarding application. It's brilliant, and it's based on the eLitmus e-learning platform that they bought.
Yeah,
and eLitmus, which is run by Rory Cameron, is who's not only really good at running this thing, he's a hysterically funny person, Irish guy, just, I love this guy, right? He's so funny, and he's so good. But he's really good with eLitmus. He really has figured out how to make eLitmus not just, because you wonder, why would they buy an e-learning system? Why would they buy a game? Well, they bought,
Badgeville, right? Didn't they buy Badgeville too?
Yeah, gamification. Yeah. They've got a lot of pieces, but it took me a long time to figure out why they even bought most of them. There's only one, and I can't remember which one it is now, but there's one of their acquisitions. I still have no clue why they bought it. I don't have a clue, and I can't fit them into anything that they have. And I don't remember what it is. It'll come to me if I look. But anyway, so the thing is that when they're partners, so on the one hand, they are great partners for ecosystem thinkers, which SAP is more so than Salesforce. Although I will, to Salesforce's credit, thanks to Bob Stutz and Leila Seca and some of the other, sluggers there, they're coming around to really, they are actually coming into and starting to seriously think about ecosystems the way they are meant to be, which will make them even more powerful. So, but there's still, if I had to pick SAP or Salesforce as a fit, I don't like the idea of picking it, but I would have picked SAP without doubt, because they literally offer what SAP doesn't, and that's one thing. But the other thing was the model of the company itself is an outlier model. Most companies, Salesforce obviously being almost the prime example of this, tend to have a vision and mission, and then they operationally execute against the vision and mission. And occasionally there's a model that is an outlier model that works. Like, the model that nearly never works is a pure engineering model, where you build a great product. And what I always say is that you have products with an institution wrapped around, but you're not a company, right? Zoho, of course, has made that work. Yeah. Usually, although they're up against its limit now, right? So they're starting to expand out into the more traditional things you got to do as a company to make it work. And your advice with them is fantastic. And then Callidus Cloud's model was not visionary. No visionary. They're completely not visionary. They have no vision. But what they have is mission. And they are a mission-driven company. And the thing that makes them interesting, so they're saying, look, down the road, we think we'll be able to help you, but we can help you with what you need right now, and we have the pieces that you don't have that we will, and either some or all of those pieces can help you right now with what you need to do operationally to make your company better today. And when Leslie Stretch gets on the stage and talks about that, it just works. He is a mission-driven guy. And they've taken the company to, and this is just an estimated number, I don't know how accurate it is, but it's in the range, to about, I don't want to say 270 million or so, give or take. And that may be off by some. I'm not a financial analyst, and I don't really delve a lot into the numbers, but I do remember this much. Since I met them, they've tripled in size, right? And I'm not saying I did that.
Yeah, after I say you could take credit for that one, right?
Right. So I need a referral fee for this unique acquisition of to be. So, but they really have done a fantastic job at finding the right pieces to make your business a better business in a media time. Like, I'll go back to the onboarding thing just to give you a little. So a couple of years back, it's been 2 years now, I guess 2016, I addressed, as a favor to them, I addressed their board of directors. And while we were there, I was allowed to, sit in on the meeting as much as, minus, the super private parts. And they released, they showed, and it was not released yet, but it has been since, the sales onboarding technology that they were about to, add to the portfolio. And I was so blown away by it because it took content and testing and process and optimization of format, so video, all that, and took you, if you were a rookie and you were hired by them the day you walked in the door to the day you finished with the onboarding process. When you came out, you were pretty complete, and the thing is, it was seamless and beautiful. I mean, it genuinely was something that blew me away. And it was using the disparate pieces that they had bought, but they turned out to be not so disparate when applied to sales performance and sales enablement and sales acceleration or sales optimization and like that. On the marketing side, they're a little weaker, but they're still pretty good. The gamification aspects are really interesting that they've built in. So they've done a lot. They're a really good company, and this acquisition to me could arguably be the best acquisition anyone's going to make in 2018. Again, that's forecasting, and Segway. I don't drive a Segway, so
Well, it sounds like to me, what makes it a good fit is, I would say that SAP is a mission-driven organization as well. And so when you have Callidus Cloud, who's a mission-driven organization, and SAP, which is a mission-driven organization, that kind of makes for a more cohesive fit. Whereas if they, like you said, Salesforce is more visionary, and if Callidus had gone to Salesforce, would there have been more of a kind of a clash before?
No, it would have been that, but it would have been more of a port. See, SAP is buying a company, like they're, including staff, but they're buying, which by the way is very good at Callidus Cloud, buying a company that fits into an ecosystem. Right. With Salesforce, they would have been buying, I think, even though it would have worked, I think to a large extent, they would have been buying pieces to add to a portfolio. Because there were some competitive pieces like CPQ and things like that are in there, but so they would have had to cherry pick to some extent, I think. Or they would have allowed, like they often do, you allow, the steel brick to work alongside of Cloud. Now, Dennis Howlett rightfully did make the point that, Callidus Cloud's sweet spot tends to be in the mid-market, but the upper end of the mid-market and the middle of the mid-market is where I would put them. On the other hand, the thing that I know from working with them and seeing what they're up to is they're either immediately scalable, which goes to the mission-driven side of them. They want to be ready to do things now, or in some cases, scaling up, right? So I think in that regard that they'll be able to fit to an enterprise play in those in-between pieces. I mean, SAP and they were good partners. I had lots of conversations about that, and they always were really solid partners. Both companies really liked each other, and they worked together well. Callidus Cloud, we saw, of course, most of the time because on the analyst side, we saw them at Dreamforce. But that's partly because of the way things get set up for us at these different events, right? With SAP is a little bit warier on how they do things. So, Sapphire, CEC at Barcelona, and you don't really, but there's no, it's not a destination this way Dreamforce is. So the partner ecosystem isn't as apparent at Sapphire or CEC as it is at Dreamforce. The partner ecosystem's in play big, and they're in touch with you because Salesforce is, I guess, maybe clear which of us is showing up, right? So the partners all get in touch. It really works out well. I mean, it's done better. The SAP needs to fix some things there, although I am optimistic about them this year because of the acquisitions they've been making.
Right.
So,
all right.
I think I'm very happy about this acquisition. If it had to be, I'm not very happy. I'd lose some income probably, but at the same time, I'm really happy for Callidus Cloud. The other thing about them is the people there are just genuinely good people. Aside from being very capable leaders and very capable practitioners, they're just really good people. I really enjoy working with the company. So, I'm happy for them because I think a lot of them will benefit, from it. Some of them are going to leave. It always is the case. But on the whole, this one to me was a good one. It was a really good one. And again, for SAP, they make good acquisitions, I'll tell you. I wrote a post on that, which people can look at if they want. It's up on ZDNet now, but it came out this morning on why I'm cautiously optimistic. And one of the reasons is their acquisition strategy from 2007 on has been really good acquisitions of very solid companies that fit into their ecosystem.
All right, so before we jump into the last thing we're going to talk about, let's see. There's a couple of people who have asked or leave a comment, so we should say hello. One of my buddies, Terrence Blunt from Samsung, he's a good guy. He said he feels some people are overly sensitive to tweets, seeing they don't understand the platform. I agree with that.
Yeah.
Totally agree with that. We already talked about Patrick and his spot-on prediction of me being a Rams fan.
His job is as an analyst on ESPN.
Yeah. Letty Ledbetter says, "Hi guys." So
hey, Letty.
Back, and congrats on the new news. And our other buddy Alan Berkson, he just makes an intriguing comment. Products with a company wrapped around it.
No, not a company, an institution.
Yeah, that's right. Alan, you should know about that. You should know about institutions. Institutionalize you for being a Jets fan, but But I digress. All right. So the last thing, we're a week out from going to, I think it's called the Microsoft Biz Apps Analyst Summit. Analyst Day.
Yes.
So a group of us are going to be another one of these secret group meeting things.
Right. This is the Council on Analyst Relations. Secret society on Analyst Relations.
Business Insider, you got to be ready. We have another one coming up. But anyway, so next, I think it's the 12th and the 13th. Microsoft is having a group of us come in and basically, once again, learn about the year ahead when it comes to product roadmaps, learning about the culture, learning about, just the state of where things are and what the year is going to have.
For dynamics.
Dynamics and not by investor relations. Just,
right.
So anyway.
And Azure, although they'll be brought up, I'm sure, in Office 365, not that, but they'll be brought up, I'm sure.
Right.
They wouldn't Microsoft.
So you and I and a group of people are going to learn more about, the year ahead. But in the meantime, Microsoft just came out with their earnings report. And one thing that stood out to me, and this comes from Seeking Alpha, there's some really good analyst reports being written and things. And one thing that stood out to me was this one. I'm going to read it from this guy. I don't really know him. I just read a little of his stuff. Analyst Richard Davis. And one of the things he says that he's advising people to buy on dips, but I'm not worried about that. The thing that caught my interest was he says that there's going to be he calls them four levers that are really going to deliver accelerated growth and higher margins. So the four are Office 365, which is, that's pretty easy to understand. Xbox.
Yeah,
it's pretty interesting to understand that. Azure, what you mentioned.
Yeah.
And CRM. And I say CRM, not Dynamics apps in general. he just said CRM, and that, of course, that caught my attention. And what do you think about CRM being one of those 4 pillars of growth, accelerated growth, not business or business apps all in general, but CRM on its own being one of the 4 levers, along with Office 365, Azure, and Xbox?
Okay, so let me sort of address it with 2 pieces. Part 1 being Microsoft Vision. Okay, and that this is the broader and kind of fairly obvious part, really, to me anyway, and to you, I know. So here's the thing. So Microsoft and Satya Nadella and the organization from the highest level has a very well-constructed, well-formulated, I should say, not formed, but formulated vision. And the vision, if I'm reading it right, is that they don't want to be services and software and all that. They want to be a mission-critical part of all business infrastructure for the 21st century. And that means hardware, software, that means services. So, for example, the cloud, you've seen every ad on TV is Microsoft Cloud, right? And that's Azure when it comes to the infrastructure aspects of it. Then Office 365 has been taken and kind of escalated and converted to I guess the best way to put it is a unified communications platform, not just a productivity suite. Right. So they've added probably 10, 15 products that kind of fold into Office 365. Xbox, from the standpoint of that, it goes to the idea of end-to-end, but not the business infrastructure. But, Microsoft has always been able to make the case that they're probably the only company in the world can actually satisfy your, let's say, technology requirements for an end-to-end life, meaning there's a consumer side and play and so on, and it extends all the way into the enterprise and up, where, Apple can talk to consumer, they really can't talk to enterprise, no matter how many fanboys think they can, right? So that's that. The CRM thing's really interesting in this way. I mean, you can't have, first of all, on the biggest side, the visionary side, you cannot have a completed vision that is defined by being a mission critical part of all business infrastructure without business apps. You can't do it, right? And CRM Dynamics is business apps for Microsoft. Now, I've been to 2 of the Business Forward events. First one, I was a keynote. Second one I just attended. First one in New York, second one in Chicago. There was one in between, I think, in London, I believe. And the thing that was fascinating to me about both events is that when you're looking on the general stage part of it, the overall general stage, not the specific breakouts, the focus when it came to technology was always CRM. They showed a lot of what Jujar had built, actually, when it came to customer service and sales and marketing. And in fact, at Business Forward in Chicago, on the main stage, they showed that and Adobe, which is a big part of their strategy, CRM strategy, and nothing of the back end. No AX, no nav, none of it. Wasn't even shown. So I think Microsoft, I don't know if it's overtly or just kind of innately, understands that the important part of what they offer in Dynamics is their CRM technology. It's also, by the way, the part that's gained ground where NAV and AX, from what I understand, and this is only what I understand because I really don't care about them and I don't like them very much either. I didn't like it when it was Great Plains, okay? So I like it less now. Okay, and I'm not denigrating the people who use it or anything. Go in good health, right? But from what I've been told, again, so this is, more innuendo, not innuendo, but gossip than it is necessarily true. I just don't know. Is they've lost ground, significant amount of ground in those 2, the back end. Now Microsoft's not going to say, yes, we have, right? They certainly won't say that to us at the analyst day either. They're going to there is some back office things they're going to talk about, I presume. But for the most part, their focus has always actually been on the CRM side. And now we live in that world, so it's obviously going to be a little more in our purview that's what we're going to see. But if you look at it overall, even and you talk to their partners, like I knew a lot of their partners over the years, and their partners who would sell Dynamics as a whole always preferred pushing CRM to the back side, right? So from the standpoint of just practical application too, what it's Richard Davis. What Richard Davis is saying makes complete sense. I don't think they're all that great on the back end, particularly. I do think, but that said, I do like the fact, to their credit, that they integrated all of it together. There's a Dynamics 360, not a CRM and separate ERP-ish backend. I think that integration was important, but I think CRM would be, let's at least say, the public focus and the leading edge of how they're selling if they're smart. And again, look, I'm going to this event because I'm trying to get some fairly definitive idea of Microsoft and what they think of business apps. I had a long period where, as you know, and I publicly stated, where I had no idea what's going on after having advised the company for 14 years, right? And I literally, 2017 from May on, I didn't have a clue what was going on. And to my, thus, my eyes, they seem to be giving up on business apps. Now, as I found out, that's not true, okay? That's not true. That much I will say definitively. They are investing in business apps. I think what this Analyst Day will help do, I hope, and I'm trusting it to do this, and judging from what I've seen, probably will help a lot, is to reestablish business apps as a primary or at least important part of their overall execution against their vision. And then I'll trust it. Again, it's the irony, ultimately, and then I'll be quiet, but the irony is this is a $2 billion business for them. And any other company, that's like a gigantic business. It's the whole business would be lucky to be that big. Mm-hmm. For Microsoft, it's so small a piece, it brings into question its validity, right, as a part of the business. It's so relative to, no other company on the planet would I ever make that statement. You have a $2 billion piece of business, I'm thinking, you're nuts if you're not pursuing that like all the time. And I wouldn't question a company about, are you really committed to it or not? But this is so small a piece of business for Microsoft that, again, to their credit, they've built that enormous a business over the years. And, when it boils down to it, with all the complainers about Windows 10 and all this, and Windows in general, Windows isn't going anywhere, man, and everyone's going to keep using it. And that's why Microsoft has the Keiretsu kind of long view of things like that. They hear the complainers, and it starts up every time they put in a new operating system, every time they release a new Office version, every time, a new CRM version comes out, every time Azure goes through an improvement, every time, SharePoint, although SharePoint really does kind of suck, but every time they release a new version of anything they do, there's a million people who attack it just because they're Microsoft, not because they have any validity, any other reason or any knowledge to attack it. And Microsoft, to their credit, and I will always give them this no matter how much I get pissed off at them, to their credit, they just wait it out. And eventually, like with Windows 10, people just use it. It's not like and whether they like it or not, they just use it. They don't even think about it anymore. It's just like, well, I know I have to drink water every day, so I'll drink water. But you don't sit there and think, I don't like water. Just drink it. Right? That's the same deal, man, with Microsoft. They have the capital, the guts, the stamina to wait it out, and they wait it out, and they do it with all their products. And business apps, I guess we'll see. And I have gone from, I think you're letting it decline too far, to I'm now willing to wait and see what they got to show me. And hopefully, I'm an optimist by nature, that they'll show me enough to make me think, yeah, it's a central part of you executing against your vision. And I'm really keeping my fingers crossed that happens, because honestly, I do really like the company, and I always have. And I've been a defender of theirs, even in times where, well, I shouldn't say that they didn't deserve defense. They did, or I wouldn't have defended them, because when they didn't deserve defense, I attacked them. But really want them to succeed. So hopefully they are being as smart as I think they want to show us they are. And we'll see.
So I'll just say, to me, it's kind of just the fact that this guy, and I like I said, I don't know him. Out of everything that they do,
he's part of the Council on Analyst Relations secret cabal.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, on the Business Insider payroll.
That's right.
I mean, when you think about it, just the general trends are that in the enterprise apps space, CRM is like the fastest growing, fastest trending app. So it makes sense for them to do that. It makes sense for them to focus their efforts in that, especially after they bought LinkedIn for $26 billion.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't buy LinkedIn for that amount of money if you don't have some way to monetize it with CRM. I'm still trying to figure out exactly how that is going to happen.
They're doing some of that with Sales Navigator, actually. I can't stand that product. They never could. I just really, it makes me ill to see it most of the time. But they sell it, right? And they really do sell it. They actually have people who spend time selling Sales Navigator. To me, you buy LinkedIn, you got one of the greatest databases in the history of mankind for CRM especially, right? Both, it's kind of like in the interstices between transactional and social data. It's like right in the in-between, right? You've got all this demographic and demographic for that matter. It's right there, and you can do so much with that, although you have to open the API up, which they're not going to do, from what I understand. But Sales Navigator is the way they've gone at CRM now, and then, they're building out the APIs to tie it into their more standard, sales product.
Yeah, but I mean that's just not enough. I mean,
I agree.
Yeah. So I want to see more with that. The thing I'm interested in, and I guess that'll tell us how important CRM is how are they going to integrate these conversational interfaces? And I mean, not just the chatbots, because that's totally, we see that happening, but voice. I mean, to me, everything that we've seen over the last couple of weeks, couple of months is showing us just how big a wave voice is going to create, or is already creating.
Yes.
I mean, Alexa, and thankfully I've got mine turned on.
Stop. Stop. All right.
So Amazon has done an unbelievable job of evangelizing voice, these devices. Google is catching on and catching up. We'll see what happens with the HomePod. But the whole idea is that we saw a couple of weeks ago where they kind of got they put out a message that kind of sounded like they were backing away from integrating Cortana into the business apps, and then they kind of rephrased it with another. I'm a little confused about it. It doesn't sound like Cortana is really being fully integrated across and into CRM. And then you see PC manufacturers are putting Alexa into their their operating in their devices. So it seems to me that Microsoft has a pretty unique opportunity in bringing these devices and their application suites and voice together in some form or fashion, but it isn't happening. Or at least maybe that's one of the things we'll learn about.
I'm hoping.
To me, that's kind of a curiosity with what we've seen, or what, kind of my outside perspective of what Microsoft and its emphasis on CRM is. They have all the pieces, it just doesn't seem like they're putting them completely together. Maybe I'll get a better idea of that next week.
Well, one thing I maybe, again, this is purely speculative, but related to that is I've gotten the impression, and that's probably the best way to put it, that Microsoft has given up hegemony to Amazon, meaning they're not trying to compete where, Google is and Apple is trying to compete with the Echo. Microsoft, I don't think that's their strategy. And there seems to be a willingness to, make the two communicate with each other. I don't know what they've actually done technically.
Yeah, they announced that partnership months ago,
yeah,
but it doesn't seem like there's been any movement yet.
Well, it might be that they're kind of, working
through the kinks, maybe.
Sub Rosa kind of thing with secret slides. With all these secret slides, I think that Cortana, if that's true, from the consumer side, Cortana will be just, in effect, an interface to Alexa. But from the enterprise side, it could just be a fully integrated. You don't need Amazon in the enterprise. You don't have to. You can just need a voice, right? It doesn't have to be something. I mean, it's good that it can extend out, but it doesn't have to. And because if I'm physically working, I don't care whose voice it is. I just need to get some stuff done. And it's a place where Cortana could really do quite well, I think. And given Microsoft's, ownership is so many pieces of that, I think you're on the money. I think that's a question that needs to be explicitly raised: is what are you doing with Cortana? Are you doing anything with that and integrating, as given your announcement of months ago with Amazon? How are you viewing Cortana in the enterprise? Those are questions that do need to be answered, because it's not like Cortana is bad. It's actually pretty good. I shut it off. I don't use it at home because I don't have any need to, because, I work out of home and I'm one person. I use, her. Right? So I'm scared of her when we do this. The thing is that I think that hopefully will be answered at that analyst day, because I think you're on the money, and I think, conversational interfaces are the number one most important single 2018, 2019 kind of that. And my other number one is mobile payment systems, right? And I'm really big on mobile platforms, mobile payments, because I've seen where that's going. I had an epiphany last May on that, and I am hot on the trail of mobile payments, mobile platforms from a CRM standpoint of customer engagement and so on. So those are my two areas: conversational interfaces, mobile payments, and mobile platforms are my two areas.
I'll say one more thing about Microsoft and the CRM. I know they're doing a lot more with Adobe, and I think that's good. But Mike, do you think they kind of missed the mark with marketing in general? And why it seems like, I know they bought some acquisitions years ago that really didn't pan out. No. But with what Salesforce has put together, what Oracle has put together, what Adobe has put together, and I know they're working with Adobe, it just seems like they really missed the mark with the whole.
Well, they did, but you know what? They're fixing it by basically saying, look, we missed the mark with marketing. We have a low-end part if you want it, but Adobe's our marketing. And that partnership, to me, it's actually one of the great things Microsoft's done from the standpoint of their ecosystem, and Adobe for that matter. That partnership runs, so, and I saw this more from each end, but that runs so deep. I mean, it runs down to technical integration at the level of objects, with the two organizations. And, it's one of those things where you speculate, is Microsoft going to acquire Adobe some point? Because it's that close and it's that tight, and it works. It's the right offering for Microsoft. It really is. To me, so when I went to Business Forward, for example, on the main stage, it was customer service, regular, their Parature integration, what it's now become, it's customer service, sales, and Adobe. And they had an Adobe VP out speaking about Adobe, right, on the main stage. This partnership is deep. I mean, it's it is so much more than I thought than just sort of a partnership kind of around integrating the application into an offering. And this is a partnership of two companies that are working down to integrate to the level of like architecture. And it's to me, it's really fascinating. And I want it to work because I think it's just right for both companies. And I really want it to work as a result. We'll see if it does. Politics can get in the way, but right now there's kind of a minimum. I think one of the actual downsides to this is when you're building out let's call it the additional value add pieces, Adobe, and I don't want to get into this today, just time limits, but maybe we can in the future, but Adobe's current partner program, ecosystem partner program, is horrible. It is a piece of absolute garbage to a level that I am so shocked. I really think highly of Adobe. You introduced me to them years ago, and I've learned a lot as a result from having a relationship with them. And I am shocked that they would put together a program this bad, given how good they are at everything else. And I just look. They have their own flaws and they have some issues here and there, but this program is designed to destroy partnerships, and that's all it will ultimately do. And they'll make some money along the way, Adobe will, but I don't want to get any further with it because I will rant for an hour on it.
I'll end it with this. So, how do I say this? With all that you just said, if CRM was truly one of those top 4 levers of accelerated growth that Davis put out, let's say Microsoft also kind of felt like that. Let's say if they did. Because that would make CRM really important to the overall business. Not just the business app side, but the overall.
Yeah, the vision.
Would that make the possibility of them buying Adobe even more likely if Microsoft really thought CRM was that crucial to their business growth?
I would say yes, because the thing that makes Adobe such kind of a brilliant partner is not just that, but Creative Cloud too plays directly into everything, and Document Cloud for that matter, because then they'd own the 2 standards, right? PDF and DOCX, right? And so
productivity stuff.
Yeah, they are literally the perfect acquisition. The question being, of course, what would Adobe want? And the valuation of Adobe might be just insane, right? So, but if, let's say, valuation wasn't an issue, which of course is the issue, it's a perfect acquisition for Microsoft. I mean, perfect. Every single facet of offering that Adobe has is a perfect complement and extension of Microsoft. Every single thing. And make Microsoft more ubiquitous.
And the things that Adobe's missing, like customer support apps, and they don't have anything that could mirror what Microsoft has with Dynamic CRM in that area. They don't. I mean, they have they do have some overlap. But is LinkedIn? I mean, is Adobe worth more than what LinkedIn was bought for? I don't know.
$26 billion is a lot for anybody. I don't care what you bought. Who knows?
We'll have to ask our financial analyst people because they know the financial analyst. Maybe there's a secret slide that actually has all this.
Contact the Council on Analyst Relations, right? And the what's it was? The Council on Foreign Relations, and what was the other one? There's another one of those secret, world institutions.
New World Order.
No. Yeah, it was. What was it called? I can't remember. Oh, Trilateral Commission. Right, so we did, but now we know the real secret organization for world domination is the Council on Analyst Relations. It's not the CFR, it's the CAR.
Yeah.
CAR is that's secret slides, that's stuff. Maybe Richard Davis is part of CAR. We don't know.
Well, what we need to do, we'll ask him. But what we'll do is we'll go to the analyst day. Maybe we'll get some of our questions answered. Who knows? And
maybe we can do an episode of the Playaz with one of the people there.
oh, let's see if they're game. That would make it even more interesting.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, maybe we can get what's his name, James Phillips, or it would be awesome on the show actually, just because he's such a great guy, and he runs CRM for them, which is Param.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah.
He's an awesome person. I mean, I love him, and the thing is, he's very outgoing and friendly. I've never met James Phillips, although I'm pretty sure I will when I get there. But I know Param for a long time. I knew him, prior to Microsoft too, and he's wonderful. And so maybe we can get him on.
Well, we'll do that. But before we leave, John Ferrara says, "Happy Monday, boys. How about them Eagles?" Yes, I'm an Eagles fan for another couple hours, but I can't.
I've already. I'm back to looking at giant quarterback options for the draft.
All right, so
Yankees. I'm into baseball now.
On the baseball.
They report in like 10 days or so. So whenever I'm just so excited about this year for the Yankees.
Well, after last year, why not?
Well, none of that. We're stronger now, so can't go wrong.
Yeah. How can you go wrong when you got Giancarlo Stanton
and Aaron Judge? Both.
The two.
That's 111 home runs between the two of them.
Yeah, that's like the two biggest, strongest guys in the whole league.
Yeah. You know what? They'll be worth just going to watching batting practice. Forget the game.
Matter of fact, I'll just go to batting practice.
That's right. Don't need the game, man. Just watch those two in batting practice. See which one is the first one to hit a ball out of Yankee Stadium.
Yep. Alan says 8 days till pitchers and
8.
That's
okay.
Right.
8. Okay.
All right. So in the meantime, I'm Brent Leary.
And I am Paul Greenberg. I did remember my full name now.
And we'll catch you the next time.
See ya.